Assalamu alaikum. I am Sarmad Aftab Lashari, and this is my new YouTube channel about propaganda and public opinion. Basically, I want to understand academically about this phenomena, how states do propaganda, and what are the instruments states use, and what is the impact of such propaganda on the society at large. So, the first and the foremost fundamental question is why states do propaganda. Let's understand the definition of propaganda. Propaganda is something that is misleading, that is distorted, that is false, that is fake. So, now in the recent world of social media, we talk about the phenomena of fake news. This is one way of doing propaganda. Spread fake news to the extent that the reality is distorted. So, the impact on society is the society cannot have the factual dialogue, the objective dialogue on the pertaining political issues or the social issues that are at hand. Let me give you example in relation to Pakistan these days. It's a very strange, it's a very stupid thing that our leaders do, our political leaders do. We go for election after 5 years, every 5 years, and the idea of election is you give the people manifesto, and people, you make promises to your constituencies. You tell them, this is what I'm going to do, this is my scheme, this is my mechanism to overcome certain political issues related to education, health, employment, economic issues such as inflation, and issues related to the foreign office, foreign affairs. You talk about how your relationship is going to be with India. What are you going to do in Afghanistan? How are you going to deal with the United States? So you give that perspective, you give that insight to your constituencies during the manifesto, election, political manifesto that you give before going into the election. Now, after winning the election, after forming a government, a certain party comes into a government, and when they are in government, of course, there is a contradiction that they do not do what they promise. They do completely 360-degree something opposite of what they were claims. For example, a certain political leader said, I'm going to remove corruption in 90 days. But when he came into power, he said, I can't do anything. There is nothing in my control now. The institutions are not in my control. The courts is not in my control. So corruption is something that is beyond my control. So this is what they do, and so there is this contradiction. After coming into power, they do something else. So despite of that, the political argument goes that let them complete their political term, let them govern for 5 years. After completion of the 5 years, during the election year, the last year, the fifth year, there has to be a political debate in the country. There has to be introspection about the overall performance of that specific government who was in power after winning the election. And there has to be criticism, there has to be critique, there has to be the counter narrative by the opposition. Opposition is also a fundamental, the agency that speak about the performance of the government. But then the certain leader was ousted in Pakistan. Imran Khan, Prime Minister Imran Khan, was ousted by the vote of no confidence. Now, how he's using propaganda, how he's using the fake news, is talking about a certain conspiracy, and that conspiracy is it was American government that ousted him to meet certain political, the goals, to meet certain political objectives, and that is quite appealing to the masses because there has been anti-American sentiment in Pakistan. So now you see the entire debate, the debate, because election is not something that happens in vacuum. Election is something that is a political process, and election means a meaningful conclusion. Election means a meaningful consensus that a peaceful peace transfer of power. That what election guarantees. That what election does. But now he has changed the entire narrative using propaganda for his political purposes, for his political objectives. And now there is this economical crisis in the country, and IMF policies are not pro friendly policies for the third world countries like Pakistan. There is this wave of inflation. The petrol prices was increased by the government of Shahbaz Sharif 60 rupees in last 1 month, 60 rupees per liter, and it is going to bring a new wave of inflation for the the people, the common man, and the purchasing power of a common man will decrease. The quality, source, the income will decrease in real terms. The value will depreciate. The price of dollar will increase. So the price of doing business will increase. It's very difficult for the small businesses to operate in certain certain circumstances. It's not going to happen. So that's what I'm giving you this entire story in relation to what propaganda does. Propaganda is misleading the nation. Propaganda is doing something opposite to what is truth. Propaganda is something that is anti-truth. It is not truth. It is something that is against truth. It can be anything but not the truth. It's not the truth. So to understand the propaganda and to understand the instrument and to understand the agency, and then we have seen the emergence of social media teams. These are the political sales, and on Twitter we have seen certain trends, and these trends are influencing the masses. Retweets, the phenomena for retweets and trend setting in Twitter, social media, and everybody has a cell phone, everybody has a Twitter, and people are taking part in the political narrative, political debate. But then social media, the hired youngsters who are sometimes called as the keyboard jihadis, they are manipulating the masses with the false information. So it's very important for a third world country like Pakistan to create a society, a conducive society, based on honesty and sincerity. It's very important that our leaders do not lie to us. It's very important that the civil society must be able to have a dialogue based on the objective assessment of the situation. For example, there is this demand in the society that there has to be a dialogue on the charter of economy. Charter of economy is very important. The state, the country, the politicians, the business class, we need to sit together and we need to have a meaningful dialogue on what the economy would look like in next 10 years and what are our priorities as a nation. There has to be some kind of a mechanism, and we have to devise a strategy where we would be able to form, because there has to be catharsis at some point of time. There has to be a political understanding for the policymakers, for the bureaucracy, for the politicians, and for the civil society at large. So that's what we need to do. I wish all the best, Pakistan. Pakistan is going through hard times, and I'm going to talk about propaganda in my upcoming videos as well. And I'm going to talk about the states, how the states use propaganda, how they what propaganda offers to them, what are their styles of doing propaganda. I'm going to talk about uh, the new the updated instruments through which social media, through the fifth generation warfare, how they are using propaganda, and that's what I'm obsessed with these days, and that's what I'm going to talk about. Thank you.